Hey, welcome to the Huntsville Hustle podcast. We're sharing stories of grit, growth, and greatness here in Huntsville small business scene. Today we got Joel. He's the owner of Bold Title LLC, and they're known for kind of taking the stress out of closings and turning transactions to smooth, seamless experiences. They got a commitment to excellent service, innovative approach, and their passion for the Huntsville community. It's well known out in the community. So, hey, Bold Title's leading the way in the real estate game. We got Joel here with us. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate the glowing introduction, man. And you're right. I think we do it a little bit different, and hopefully, I'll get a chance to maybe talk about that and explain a little bit, my
Yeah,
approach and
yeah. Word's
how
getting
we
out,
go.
man. People know about it. If you want a smooth experience, that's where you go. So that's the word on the street. The kids are talking about. So,
I appreciate
so
that.
how would you approach your unique approach and how it kind of resonates with your clients?
So, I think it's funny, man. We'll get into, I guess, probably my background in a little bit, but I take all the pretentiousness out of it. I want folks to have a laid back experience that they leave, not feeling stressed, not feeling, overburdened with, a lot of legalese and complicated things. I want them to come in and have an experience where they walk away with maybe a story, and I walk away with maybe a story or a tidbit from their life. It's something we connect to. It's I think it's the personal connection. I have certain things I do, and I'm not going to share all my secrets, but I do prep before I go into every closing. Literally, like, I know what my realtors, that I work with on the regular. I keep up with them. I know what's going on in their lives, their families, and I do a little research on the buyers and the sellers, and I know, what's going on and what to talk about, and I love that connection. It's funny. I'm naturally a very introverted individual, very much so, but I have a very gregarious and outgoing, extroverted approach to my closings, and they're not quiet. I'm not quiet, and I think that kind of sets us apart. There's no wood paneling in my law office. I am a lawyer. There's no legal books stacked up on the walls. It's a very different approach, and I think that laid back kind of authentic. I'll be honest with you, it's authentic approach is what kind of sets us apart.
Because man, I had heard that you have many leather bound books. Is that not the truth?
No, 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 no. I think the only leather bound book I have would be the book from the Evil Dead, if you're familiar with that series of movies and books. But that's another topic. But no, I cannot think the last time I physically actually opened up a leather bound book. It was probably the Bible. But other than that, I can't think of another leather bound book I've opened up in many, many years.
Well, that's cool, man. I think people come in and they'll close and they feel like it's going to be stuffy and it's going to be boring. It's going to be just like a drudgery type of thing. And you can make it a little more exciting and a little more fun. Because buying a house exciting, like that should be like the awesome part, right? That you're making it official. So that's cool that you do that for people.
Look, I grew up in a very different, non-conventional lifestyle. I grew up in Southern California. I was born in the South. My father was in the Navy. My mother was a few years younger than my dad when they met in Virginia. And at 2 weeks, I was carted across the country in a car in a banana box. Literally, we didn't have a bassinet or anything fancy, and they brought me from the South to California. And unfortunately, my parents got divorced when I was really young. But I had a very interesting life. Coming up until I was about 19 when I moved to Alabama, and I think that shaped me to be, the ability to kind of connect with people and to not be a chameleon, but to be able to understand and have empathy. Empathy it's one of those traits and one of those things that I think we're in short order for these days. And, I feel like my empathy is authentic because people can tell when it's not. And so that's the approach I take when I practice law. I wasn't born a lawyer. I tell people that all the time. I don't have a lot of friends that are lawyers. I have a couple. I don't run in these lawyer circles per se. But I did spend probably 8 to 10 years of my life trying to be the lawyer, trying to be the suit and tie, the buttoned up, going to court, carrying the briefcase type of lawyerly approach to things that really for me wasn't authentic. And it made me miserable. It made me extremely miserable. And when I had the opportunity to kind of just finally got the push out the door to do my own thing, I said, this is what it's going to be. And this is how we're going to be. And this is how we're going to treat people. And it served me well. I mean, I've been wildly successful, not just financially, but with friends and family and just everything. It's being authentic and not having to worry about, who you are, or what you aren't. It's a very freeing type of approach to life. And it took me a while to get there. I'm not lying. Like, it's just like a lot of this is new, and, I'm knocking on 50. It's right there. And I'm a different person today than I was, 5 years ago. I'm a different person today than I was 20 years ago. And it's these experiences, I think, that have really kind of just shifted me towards where I'm at today. I joke around a lot with people, and it's sometimes I look really angry. I'm a very intense individual. I'm hyper competitive. Well, which from some of my other stuff I'm into. So that gives me sometimes a look of like stress and anxiety and anger or something like that. And I tell people, it's not my fault. It's my face. I'm not angry. It's just my face. I can't do anything about it. So I try my best to put on a smile. My wife would tell you that for sure. But that's the approach I take to what I do. I love what I do. I'm not like one of those people that's going to say work is everything for me, because it's not. Things outside of work are kind of what drive me. And those are the things I kind of work hard for in order to be able to do. But I love what I do with Bold Title. I really do.
Man, I think when your empathy and your authenticity shine through, people want to work with you. They see that, they want to be around that.
Absolutely.
And man, I'm thinking about getting a briefcase myself. I would just put like snacks in it or something. But just as a fitness guy carrying a briefcase, man, I could really separate myself.
It's funny because I have a really nice briefcase my wife bought me when I graduated law school. And I went to law school a little late, went to college late. I spent, years trying to be a rock star, playing music that nobody wanted to listen to, and tried to be a fighter, and realized I'm a better coach than a fighter. And my briefcase it's a really cool briefcase. I'm a baseball fan. I don't watch as much as I used to because I was raised a Cubs fan. My dad's family's from Chicago, and I spent, much of my life in sheer disappointment watching the Cubs, right? And when they finally won the World Series years ago, I was lucky enough to be able to go. And we won that series, and for me, that was it. Like, I don't need to watch anymore because I don't want to have the failure. I'm going out on that high, but I have a really nice Rollins briefcase. I have a really nice Rollins briefcase that looks like a baseball glove. But you talk about what's in it, like literally, if you would go through my briefcase, even when I was going back and forth to court, and I used to practice all over the state. I would wake up at 3, drive to Mobile to be in court by 9, be back in Birmingham by 2:30, 2 o'clock, and then be back in Huntsville to get some work done. But in my briefcase, it was snacks, fight videos that I would watch, things that I could watch on like an iPad, music I could listen to, and I would make notes on lyrics and stuff when I was writing music. And it was definitely not like as impressive as people would think, like, oh, look at that briefcase. It's stuffed. No, it's not legalese. It's a bunch of useless. It's probably Hostess orange cupcakes. That's like my favorite treat in the world. There's always going to be Hostess orange cupcakes in there, and some other things dealing with music and my other hobbies.
Orange, man, that's a rare bird right there. The orange Hostess, man.
That's my staff knows every year. At my birthday, they will get me a box of them, and it's funny. We all have battles, and my battle has been the battle of the bulge, and I've dropped a ton of weight in the last year or two, and but when I get those, man, they're done in a day. It doesn't matter how many there are. It's just it's not pretty. You don't want to see that.
That's it. I grew up a Cubs fan too. We had WGN growing up, so it was Bozo Show, the Cubs, the Sean Dunston, Ryan Sandberg.
Oh my God. I don't have it. I moved my office, and in my old office, my grandfather has it's the original, it's the starting lineup toys. I don't know if it's the little figurines, and he has the original starting lineup. I think it's the 1989 or 88. And it's literally, it's Dawson, Sandberg, Sutcliffe, Mark Grace, all those guys. And I keep that out. And it's a good reminder to me of, you could have a ton of talent. You can have a ton of talent and a very cohesive team. Like, everybody knows that team. Everybody knows that team from that era of the Cubs. And but they always fell short, and why. And it's just always a good reminder. And again, it's a memento from my grandfather, who was really one of probably the most instrumental figures in my life. Was my grandfather, my father's dad. I named my son after him, if that tells you anything. He was a very complicated but a very simple man at the same time. He shaped me, especially like probably my sense of humor overall, I've never met a sad moment I couldn't find a joke in, it's helpful. I guess it's a coping mechanism, and he was really good at coping mechanisms, I would say. So.
Oh man. So you kind of mentioned some of your experiences along the way have kind of shaped you. How's kind of seen kind of the economic challenges of your hometown? Kind of how's it shaped your business?
So I grew up in a city in California called Fontana, and Fontana is in San Bernardino County. So it's Southern California. And, when I moved here at 19, and I consider Huntsville my hometown. Like, I've been here 30 years. I love Huntsville. People say, where are you from? Alabama. Where are you from? Huntsville. But as a kid, I was shaped by what happened in Fontana. Montana was a very thriving community as a kid growing up. There were literally, we could walk down, we would leave at 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning on the weekend, and we'd be back at 9 o'clock at night on Saturday. And you could travel the town, man. Like, it was a crazy experience because it was a city, but it was also agricultural. Like, my grandparents' house where I lived with my dad was one spot, and then behind us was a house with horses, and we would run on this brick wall and try to jump on the back of the horses and ride them. And that's where I've got my healthy fear of horses from. But we had a community, like a neighborhood park called Veterans Park, and we played baseball there, and you could do anything. It was wonderful. My dad played music, which is, my love of music comes from, and it was a great thriving town. It was a very, very, very mixed town, very diverse, and I think that kicks into why I hang out with a very diverse group of people, both economically, politically, racially, religiously. Like, I don't really have barriers when it comes to that stuff. But anyways, get back to Fontana. So it was a steel mill town. Everybody from Chicago and the Midwest moved to Fontana to work in the steel mill. My entire family worked for the steel mill. Very union, very blue collar. And man, I remember in the 80s, Kaiser Steel had all these union contracts, and they sold out to another company called California Steel, and California Steel shuttered the whole plant, laid off the entire town. And I remember vividly going with my dad to collect unemployment and to get, his furlough checks, and picking up big blocks of government cheese, which to me is a delicacy now if I could find it. But I wouldn't eat a grilled cheese sandwich for years after this experience. Big blocks of government cheese and powdered milk. And my dad struggled, man. I mean, he struggled. We lived in not squalid conditions. I mean, he always made sure I had food. He's a great father as far as that regard goes. But we were all laid off. And to see your entire town go from thriving and very, very middle class to struggling financially, it'll crush you, man. And I think I made an unconscious decision at that point in life that, I would be a predator as opposed to the prey when it comes to life. And I don't, that's not my quote. I've heard it before, so I can't sure to attribute it to, but I do want to say, but I just made a decision, unconsciously, I think, is to be a predator. And that's what gave me my aggressive nature and things. That's what shaped me. My dad never owned a home until later in my life. My mother didn't own a home. My mother's a good person as well. She was in Orange County at the time, but I spent most of my formative years with my dad. But I lived with my mom too, watching her struggle. And home ownership and the ability to get ahead and to pave your own path was just something that was kind of elusive in my life around me. So when I moved here at 19, man, I literally, people think I'm joking, I guess. They don't believe me, but I knew one person here, one person. He was a couple years older than me, and he was kind of a rough kid like I was. I got in trouble a lot in high school. I barely graduated. I tell people this all the time. Look, when I graduated high school, I was one of like a handful of people, 4 or 5 of us, who literally the last day of high school had to go line up in the counselor's office to find out if we were going to graduate. And I graduated on auto body and auto upholstery credits, man. I could weld like crazy at the time, can't anymore, and I could upholster a car. But I had nothing going for me. I ran with a rough crowd. I enjoyed fighting. I enjoyed, getting into trouble. While at the same time, I always kept a clean head. I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs. So I was able to wake up one day and contact my buddy here and just said, hey, man, I can't do this anymore. And I've never been to Alabama. You wouldn't tell by the accent now. Never been to Alabama at the time. I bought a plane ticket. I flew here March 25th, 1995 into Birmingham. Drove up and literally just been grinding ever since, man. And so this is my hometown. Huntsville's my hometown. This town has given me every opportunity in the world. This is the most opportunity-filled city, I think, in the country, if not the world. People are starting to find out, and I'm from California, but I wish they'd stop coming here, go away. But they feed me. And so, again, I guess that's a short version of my life. But Huntsville's great, man. I love it here. If you can't make it in Huntsville, I don't understand it because the opportunities are they're bountiful.
You're right, man. That's a great point. And we got people proving it every day. And you came all from California, didn't know, one person, and look at you now, man. So how does all that lead to you starting your own spot?
Say it again.
How does that lead to you starting your own thing? Like, how does Bold Title come about?
Yeah, I piddled around. You're familiar, and I know you're a Huntsvillian, man. So Bandito Burrito, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Bandito burrito, man. My first job was working at Bandito, right? I played punk rock music, and so my friends that originally were the Gutierrez family, Heather Gutierrez, Rachel Gutierrez, Becky Gutierrez, Nathan Gutierrez, and of course their father Oscar and their wife Debbie. So my first job was working at Bandito Burrito on Governor's Drive, and rest his soul, it was probably one of Huntsville's greatest treasures. I mean, seriously, hard worker, connected with the community, loving, empathetic. I mean, he did more for me than he would ever share. He wasn't the type of person who would share what he does for people. He was an entrepreneur, through and through, and started his own restaurant and had multiple locations at any given time. And, his drive, I think originally is what instilled in me a drive to be successful. Now, I credit my wife, Sandy, with the majority of it, though. She's an entrepreneur through and through. She's graduated Grissom, grew up in Huntsville for the most part, put herself through hair school, started her own salon, and has been a successful hairstylist and owner of salons for a number of years. Works at a very well-known salon here in Huntsville called Fringe Salon over at Campus 805, right? So she's bought into the community on the west side, helping to reinvigorate that area. But between her and Oscar and, those are the people that kind of gave me the push to really get out and do it. I got done with law school. I graduated with a political science degree in history from undergrad. Loved it, man. I was like, to go from like a 1.1 GPA in high school to, I graduated college, magna cum laude. I went to law school on a full academic scholarship because of my grades and my LSAT. And law school was one of those things that was a necessary evil. Didn't love it. Once I got there, I was like, I made a mistake, but I don't quit. So I grinded through it and did it. But yeah, so I worked in Washington for a summer for a senator on a judiciary committee. I worked at the Attorney General's office. I had every intention to go into politics, public policy, become a lobbyist, which I know is a dirty word to a lot of people. But I wanted to impact policy, and didn't end up going that route. Worked for a judge, worked for a law firm. It wasn't a great fit. Was there for a couple of years. I started my own law firm. I had a law firm for about 5 years, which is extremely successful law firm, litigating as a commercial business and real estate litigation attorney. And left private practice, got the dream job, right? In-house counsel. 3 years of that absolutely wore me out. And it was working for other people and not being able to control my own destiny that just led me to say, you know what? I'm doing my own thing. I'm going to do real estate law. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it right. And with that, along with the push and the encouragement of my wife and one of my employees, Megan, I did it. I said, boom, but my wife was probably the biggest driving factor for me to get out and do it on my own. She's going to love hearing that, because she reminds me of it, often, but in a loving way. But honestly, she's probably one of my biggest heroes.
You need people like that in your life. Like you talked about Oscar pouring into you and helping you out. That dude's a legend, by the way. If you don't know him, you should. You should look him up.
Look, man, he literally saved my life in more ways than he'll ever know. He gave me the first job making food, which I had no idea what I was doing. I was the maintenance guy for Bandito Burrito locations. I had no clue what I was doing. Here I am, a 19-year-old, 20-year-old kid doing electrical work in restaurants, and gas fitting and stuff. And but he trusted me. I was the guy on the Saturday to be cutting the grass at the locations. And I spent a lot of time with Oscar. We used to go shooting together on the weekends. We used to travel to Nashville to test food and meet with folks. We spent a lot of time together. And the last few years of life, things happen. He had kids, grandkids, health and stuff. Unfortunately, probably one of my bigger regrets is, I did reconnect. He had a chance to meet my kids, but I wish I would have spent more time with them. And luckily, I get to spend time with his kids. I see Heather all the time, Oscar was one of my groomsmen in my wedding. Heather and Rachel were both in my wedding on my, as bridesmaids. And so, yeah, he's a legend, man. Like, there's only one Oscar. There's not going to be another Oscar. Everybody in Huntsville, if you came up in the 80s, 90s, to know Oscar.
If you don't know him, you know his food. I guarantee you know one or the other. It's got to, you had to have get some Bandito back in the day.
Absolutely.
So, man, you mentioned earlier how you know about your real estate agents and the people you're working with. How do you, what's kind of an ideal person for you to work with? How do you find the people that you trust so much?
Authentic people, truthful people. I don't put up with BS, man. I'm a very much a treat me, I'll treat you, kind of how reciprocal type of person. I will take a certain amount of guff you have to in business. You have to take a certain amount of grief. And but I always tell people the story is of, sometimes you come across people who just are miserable to be miserable. And we had an experience once when I had a new receptionist at the time. She was with me for a few years, but we were really busy. From 19 to 22, and 23 was just insane. Market was booming. COVID, as horrible as it was very good for real estate, very good for the industry. And I had, would average 5, 6, 7 closings every single day during the week. And so it got busy, and I have a small office, and, an experience where a realtor was just for no reason, was very, very rude to my staff, and I was in a closing at the time, and I heard him and could tell she was uneasy, and there's other people in the office. And I just said, hey, I stood up. I said, hey, y'all give me a second, please. And I went out there and I confronted them, and said, look, we don't treat people like that here. I appreciate your business, enjoy working with you, but it's not worth it for me. It's not worth it for you to have you treat my staff that way. And I don't treat them that way. If I can't treat them that way, you're not going to treat them that way. And I said, we appreciate your business, but you're going to stop right now or you're going to get out of my office. And I work with people that have mutual respect. You're not always going to click with people. That's the biggest fallacy or misunderstanding in life that people have, is that you can make everybody happy. You can't. There's going to be people that you just don't gel with. There's just something about it, like I'm an acquired taste when it comes to a lot of things. I understand that. And you're not always going to mesh with people, but I would say most of the people that I work with on the regular, I have an authentic connection with, and they're great people. They're great to my staff. That's the most important thing to me. They're good to me. They feel like they can come to me when there's an issue. This is real estate. You're dealing with financial issues. You're dealing with homes, contractor issues. You're dealing with emotions. One of the biggest things we deal with that a lot of people don't know how to deal with are domestic issues. We're dealing with divorce. The things you deal with in real estate, you're dealing with death, divorce, and debt, right? The 3 Ds, right? Death, because you're dealing with estates and you're helping people settle things for people that have died. Divorce, unfortunately, the divorce rate in this country, right, is as high as it is. And so folks get divorced and they've got to separate their assets. And then debt, people are borrowing money in order to go into these things. And so you got to understand that there's an emotional reaction to these things. People's ability to deal with that in a friendly and effective way, I think, is kind of what I look for. Those are my ideal clients, people that are just honest. I have an approach to things like, look, I have this phone with me 24/7. I hate it. There's my beautiful family. I hate this thing. I don't have my notifications on. It doesn't vibrate. It doesn't ring unless it's my wife, my kids, or my immediate family. That's it. But I always return calls right away. I always return text right away. I always keep up with it. I'm constantly checking it. I return emails right away. People are amazed sometimes at how quickly I respond back to them. And part of me thinks they must think I don't have any work. They must think I'm not doing anything. I guarantee you I'm working. If you come in my office right now, I have 3 computer screens right here. I've got my TV going there with the news in the background. But I believe in this approach to work of handle it now, get it out of the way. I don't want to not answer an email on a Friday and come back Monday and try to answer that and have 20 emails. I'd rather answer you Friday or Saturday or Sunday. And I think that approach impresses people because I'm on it. But I'm going to give you a secret. I'm going to tell you my secret, all right? And it's on the podcast, but I do it for completely selfish reasons. I don't want to have you burdened by having things to always catch up on. To me, that's one of the biggest stress factors for business folks, is never having felt like they're done and they're accomplishing things. It's always having that overwhelming weight on you. And I'm not saying I don't have weight on me. Running a business, and having employees and everything it's difficult, it's stressful, but man, having things done like that for the most part helps you sleep at night, man. I don't got to worry about, returning an email in the morning, in the morning, because I've already done it. So yeah, that's why that's my approach to it, man, is response, and so I try to keep that up. And so my ideal client is the same way.
Yeah. I'm with you on that, mainly because I will forget. I also don't want to pile it up, but man, if I don't do it right then, most time I'll probably a text message. I can't tell you how many times in my mind I already responded, but physically I did not. Absolutely. So I got to do it when the spirit moves me. I got to go, man. No waiting.
Get it done, man.
Yeah, that's it. I'm with you on that. So, you and your wife are both there. You guys are in the community. You're helping out other small businesses. What are some changes and resources we could do around here to help small businesses?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I have been involved in, like I've shared with you before, I've been involved in the business community, you know, very openly, with, different committees of 100 and different business organizations. And, you know, I think our government runs in an antiquated fashion, even in Huntsville. As progressive as a town that we are, and I don't use progressive as a pejorative, um, at all. I'm politically a pretty conservative individual. There's no secret to it. People know my politics. But as far as like city government goes, we need to be progressive and supportive, and that dealing with tax breaks for local businesses. That's lowering things for the entry point for a business. Being fair, I think it's. I understand taxes, right? And I understand how, the more you make, the more they take. I get it. But, as a business owner, when I have to, renew my business license every year and have to show the city my gross receipts, and that's what they're going to base it on, it's a disincentive to me in a sense, because now I've gone, you've tripled my tax that I paid when I opened my business. Those are disincentives of small businesses. It's making things a little harder for us. On the federal level, we could spend a month having a podcast about that. But things like the BOI report, the beneficial ownership of interest thing that FinCEN has put in place for small businesses and LLC owners. Like if you have an LLC because you want to have a car washing business, you have to report now who owns that to the federal government. It's on hold right now being appeals. Those are ridiculous requirements. Ridiculous requirements. I understand, money laundering and terrorist activities and all that, but come on, man. As a guy trying to feed his family here in Huntsville, Alabama with a small business, is that really your target? Let's be a little more creative and maybe focused on things. And so I think government does best when it gets out of the way. And I think it does best when it's there for people that truly need it. And it's that middle ground that's murky, Airbnbs is an example. On occasion, I do get called to litigate things that I have, maybe expertise in. And I represented one of the largest Airbnb lawsuits here in Huntsville, co-counsel with some other folks that I had jump in on it with me. And I think Huntsville City's approach to Airbnbs is absolutely ridiculous. I think they're starving folks who otherwise provide a service that's needed in Huntsville. And I think they're doing it on the basis of wanting to help out the hotel industry. And I think they need to get out of the way. I think having an attractive Airbnb system and an attractive short-term rental system is smart for a city like Huntsville. I think opening up the zoning is smart because it allows people to not only on a short-term basis get into a community that they may buy a house in, that they may contribute to. I'm much more likely if I can have an Airbnb in Blossomwood or in Hampton Cove or one of these residential areas, and let's say I'm here on a short-term basis for 6 months, but I know I'm going to get transferred here. Now I know where I want to live. Now I know where I want my kids to go to school. And instead of sending me to downtown Huntsville where you're just going to stick me in a hotel, I don't think people truly understand the long-term effects of some of the issues they do. Now, David Little on the council is a friend of mine. John Meredith's a friend of mine. Jenny Robinson I've known for years. We have good people in city government. We really do. So it's not a knock on them, but it's time for them to wake up and really start looking at what they can do. I moved here in 1995. And this is an Alabama-wide thing. They have been working on the same stretch of 65 since March 25th, 1995, that they're working on today, sitting here at January 7th, 2025. What is going on? Like, why? And, if you live in Huntsville, we got Huntsville, you got Governors, you got the Parkway. To me, that's kind of like the center of Huntsville right there. They're still working on things that they've been working on since 1995. Come on, guys, get efficient. Like we've got the most PhDs, doctorates in the world here in one area, and we can't figure out that road work probably should be done at nighttime. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I could beat on that dead horse all day long, but that's what the city needs to do, man. Be more creative. Seriously, be more creative. Think outside. I know that's a cliche, but think outside the box, right?
I think Huntsville is that kind of city, though. Huntsville is an outside of the box kind of city, so I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and we are, and that's the thing is there's so many people and so much talent in Huntsville. It's amazing the people I meet, but again, I think sometimes we got that old way of thinking. Being a southern city, we still have an old way of thinking where, and it's the powers that be, right? I'm not trying to stir up trouble here on this podcast, but the powers that be want to stay the powers that be, and so. I may be just complaining to complain. That's one of the reasons why I'm not on a lot of boards anymore. I spent 6 years as a trustee for Catholic High School, JP2, which it is now. And that was a great experience. I spent 10 years on the board of an HBCU, Drake Technical College. And those were probably the most fulfilling things that I did. But serving on like Committee of 100 and those business types of things, they weren't as fulfilling. I didn't feel fulfilled. So you know what I did? I left. So, and that's what happened. I think you run up against roadblocks and you give up because it's not doing anything for you.
I get it, man. I get it. Yeah. You want to be where you're feeling fulfilled. You're making a difference. You want to be those kind of places.
Absolutely. Right.
Kind of switching gears a little bit. Was there a time when you said, I don't know if it was like a client relationship or a certain closing or maybe a milestone you hit where you're like, hey man, this Bold Title thing is going to really work out. I think I can make a run at this.
Yeah, there's been a lot of those. I mean, it gets, I don't want to be cheesy. It's a small thing. It's the small things for me. I have a fish in my office. I've had a fish since we opened the door. And I have a fish aquarium. It's round. It hangs on the wall. It's like a globe. And there's a betta fish in there. And, Roger won, God rest his soul, passed away about a year ago. But that fish made it about 4.5 years. But that fish bowl becomes the focal point of people when they come in the office. And I don't know how many of those fish bowls I bought for people who bought a brand new house. And it's so stupid and small and insignificant. But I still have the photo that pops up on my Facebook memories of this young boy who was just enamored with that fish bowl. And like he was crawled up on the desk and he was just in love with it. And that was the first one I bought for people. And I didn't even share it and tell them. I just sent it to them, and I know where they live, right? I'm closing their house. So I have it sent to them. And, I send a little note and just say, I hope you can make this a home. And I hope you can take care of this fish. And I hope, your son really enjoyed it. And those things are the ones that stick out the most with me, and also just watching folks make generational wealth, the ability to build wealth, things that you can leave. I have a client, it's 2 clients, it's a couple, and they have a young daughter, and I've watched them blossom and grow their business over the years. And those are the things that I'm like, okay, like this is how impactful this business can really be. It's very easy to be dollars and cents, right? Every time I open a file, we give it a number, right? It's always a number. And, you got to remember the business side of things, but it's the little things in those closings that really start to resonate. When you've got, seeing like 21, 22-year-old couples buying their first house at that age. Wow. Like I was happy. I was just excited I could pay my Chevron bill. Remember the gas credit cards? I could pay my Chevron credit card bill that I used to buy gas and egg sandwiches to eat on when I had no money, but to be able to buy a house at that age it's just exceptional. And then to have folks who are in their 40s, like my age, my contemporaries, buying their first house. It's the other side of it. Like, wow. Like it took this long for them to be able to do it. Those are the things that are great. The commercial deals are wonderful, make more money on them, but they don't have the lasting effect. They don't give me I don't know how much you believe in karma, and the scales, I want to put a lot of more good things over here, right, to outweigh any bad things that I've dealt with in life. And I think I'm doing it, and I think I'm helping other people do it. Man, and we mess up, man. No, I'm not. Again, I'm known to be aggressive at times. I can sometimes come off as standoffish, not typically in real estate, but other things. I'm an extremely blunt and honest person, and to me, that's like a plus, right? That's an attribute. To other people, it's not. And my wife is very much different. She's very much emotionally driven. She doesn't want to upset people. And I feel like just telling people the truth is better. And she balances me that way. And so, yeah, it's just those little experiences that just help. One more part to that. I don't want to talk too much about it. But look, guys, business owners, I'm looking at you. Business owners, entrepreneurs, treat your employees right. I don't know how much more I can say that. Yes, they should be grateful they have a job. I get it. But they don't need to be reminded of that. I 100% pay for my employees' healthcare. I've done that ever since I opened this company. They don't pay a dime to their healthcare. I 100% invest in supplemental care, disability, cancer insurance, things like that. Those things cost me money and return zero benefit to me financially whatsoever. But they pay dividends with my staff. I bonus my staff when I can. I give them money when I can, good money, because if I'm successful, it's because they're helping me be successful. I have had this. Megan has been with me since the day I opened it. She was with me at another law firm. She's been with me. Ashley has been with me for the most part the entire time I've been open. I have always had long-term staff. I don't have a lot of turnover. I had 2 leave at the same time a few months back. One got a better job offer to work from home for more money. Hell, I would have taken that job. Send me home. The other one's going to law school, But other than that, I don't have turnover. My staff's happy. They are the most important thing I have in this business is my employees. And we don't treat people like that, unfortunately. I think, employees have become a commodity, that can be just kind of replaced and stuff. And I don't think employers should have the opinion of, well, they're replaceable. And I don't think employees should have a feeling of entitlement. And so it's that middle ground, right? It's the middle ground between those two. I think I'm good at doing that. I really do. I think I'm really great at that. I know that's me tooting my own horn. I think I found a really good balance. I've worked for some folks in the past, lawyers who are just like extremely just like, like, oh my God, if they're coming into your office, something's wrong. I don't want to be that guy. In the past, before I went to law school, I was a door-to-door bill collector, Joe, like literally door-to-door, like 7 a.m, knocking on doors, going along for rides, doing recovery work on vehicles. And I remember getting angry and throwing phones and all that. And I'm like, what have I become? I don't want to be this guy. And so, making all those mistakes along the way, I think is what's kind of led me to be successful. I believe I'm successful. I'm not rich. I have to work every day. I still have to show up, but I feel like I'm extremely successful, and I love it. I love wearing success as a badge. It's nothing to, you're not going to find me walking around and I wear the same clothes. I wear polos. No, most of the time they say Bold Title on them, so it's like I almost have a uniform. Can't think of the last time I wore socks. I wear jeans to work. So you might not see it, but to me, this is success. It's the ability to be comfortable in your own skin.
That's it, man. And knowing you're taking care of the people that take care of you. That's Absolutely. Just a great, great feeling right there. So right. This is probably the most important question I've asked you so far, but how can we effectively close the distance against an opponent with longer reach without getting eaten up by the jab?
Yeah. Great question. So, I try to be a fighter. Those that don't coach or those that can't coach, what the adage is, I started fighting at a young age, right? I got suspended from kindergarten for fighting. Like if you can get suspended from kindergarten for scrapping, you got something. I got beat up a lot along the way, and eventually, started training in boxing and martial arts. I'm a Muay Thai instructor, and Muay Thai is the national sport of Thailand. It's a very aggressive form of fighting. You got elbows, knees. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful art. You'll see my eyes light up when I talk about it. How do you close the distance without getting hit? Footwork, man. Footwork and getting that head offline. That's what a lot of people don't get. The number one defense to a kick is a punch. The number one defense to a punch is a kick. That's what I tell my folks. I had fights this weekend. You'll probably see me post some of them. And one of my fighters a kickboxer, tall, lanky, fighting a guy actually taller than him for once, which was cool. But if you watch his fight, I'll send you the link later, you'll see when his opponent kicked, he stepped in and punched. And that cut the kick off and kept his opponent from advancing forward. It's like anything else, right? It's like business, right? Make the first move, cut them off. Yeah, man, head movement, having a quick jab, keep your hands up. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people there, keep your hands up, cover your neck, protect your neck. Head movement, being elusive, are the things that'll help you, when it comes to fighting, and they transfer over to real life too. Like I'm extremely passionate about fighting. I coach fighters. I coach, amateur fighters. I've coached some professional fighters. Nobody quite to the level of, the UFC or anything, but, regionally we do well. My hope is we'll get there one day, but that's one of the things that keeps me, it's very therapeutic, right? Lifting weights, it's therapeutic to an extent, but punching somebody in the face is very therapeutic. And I explain that to people all the time. Like, you don't understand. Like, I know I light up when I say it. The mutual combat is just one of those, like, man, there's nobody else. It's you. It's you and one person. And it's as real as it gets. As old as I am, I still get in there and spar my fighters, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old fighters. I've backed off a lot in the last couple of years because of injuries and I don't want CTE. But I still get in there and scrap with them, man. And it feels good being, 49 years old to be able to let these hands and these legs go. It makes you feel good. It helps keep you, keep you young for sure. But yeah,
Yeah.
man, come to the gym, man. Train free on me, man. I know you're in shape. Everybody knows Joe Martin's in shape. But if you've never done like fight conditioning
It's a different deal, man.
cardio, man, it's a whole different animal, man.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone out there has done any kind of combat sports. You're not worried about deadlines, the stress of the next day. You are in the moment. I mean, if you have that and you can't get rid of the stress in your life, go try out a combat sport and just
Absolutely.
tell me what you're
What's
worried
cool
about.
about that is like it's so diverse. If you come to my class at any given day, like I have PhDs. I've had lawyers. I've got, folks that work for NASA at a high level. I've got kids fresh out of high school. I have high school kids. I have, kids people that have otherwise been discarded by society, people that people would call gang members and, but they're working to further their life. And so my classes run deep, man. I run 18 to 25, 28, 29 people a class. Like we are the largest combat sports club in Huntsville. It's Arsenal Combat Sports Club. We are in the area. I know we're the largest. And I think what makes it effective is that, first off, I'm a coach there and an investor, but we're also Black owned and we're extremely diverse. We're on Jordan Lane, kind of more near the north side of town. But our classes are just, to me, it's beautiful because you're literally like, you got a doctor, punching a guy that just got off work from a burger joint, right? Or you got a student, fighting against a lawyer and, everybody comes in there and you're equals in a sense, and you're grinding together and you don't understand the love and the bond that you build until you beat the crap out of each other and you hug it out at the end.
It really is a weird thing. If you've never done it, the people that's trying to murder you will be your best friends. It's so crazy.
Like people will think, oh, man, you must hate us. I'm like, no, I love you. But I'm trying to help you. And man, it's great. I'm passionate about it for sure. I've got a 17-year-old son and I've got a 19-year-old daughter who she's in college. She's doing her thing. She's going to go to law school. Brilliant. Her heart, man, it just makes me explode with how great her heart is. And then I got a 17-year-old son who's, got a great heart too, man. He's got a great head on his shoulders, but he's been training and fighting adults his whole life, man. And he's 17 years old. And we'll have folks come in who are like these big muscle bound guys and they think they're just going to come in there and walk through people. And I'm like, all right, I put them against my son who maybe was 15, 16 at the time and lights them up, and it's a humbling experience. Everybody can fight until they get punched in the face, right? Everybody thinks they can fight until they fight somebody who knows how to fight. And it's just like practicing law, right? You're going to run into better lawyers. I've run into lawyers where I'm like, when I did litigate and I'm just like, whoa, wow. Like I just got outclassed. Like this guy's smarter, quicker, has better resources. Like there's levels, man. There's levels to law. There's levels to fighting, right? Like on a regional level, we do well. Like it would blow your mind. I average over the last few years that we've been actively coaching fighters and competing, we average a fight like every 14 days if you pull it out. That's how active we are. And we've been extremely successful. We're very much on the plus side as far as wins go. But man, you start breaking out of the region and you start going up in levels, you start to see like it's, and so you got to step up your game. And so if you're not constantly improving, you're a fool. And if you don't recognize that every coach needs a good coach, you're missing opportunity, and I've trained in Thailand. I've trained with world champions. I've trained with UFC fighters. I've trained with ONE FC fighters, and there's levels, man. There's levels to everything, and it's the same thing with practice and law. I've learned from the best, I've worked with Harvard trained attorneys and I've worked with even attorneys from smaller law schools who are just brilliant. And you start to see the levels of things. And I think, you never know it all. Right. And so keep learning, man, for everything you can do.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask you that for two reasons. Number one, just because you're so passionate about it. I knew that would come across, and that obviously did.
It's fun.
But also because it spills over into everyday and business life as well. So I kind of see that the martial arts has always done that for you and for many people as well. So I got a couple more for you before we get you out of here. So
yeah, I'll be quick on these ones.
If someone is there wanting to start a small business, you've been around the small business world for a long time. What advice would you give them?
Have a solid plan. Have a solid plan and be smart with your money. The number one mistake I think a lot of people do is when they start making money, they spend it. They spend every bit of it. I keep a healthy reserve in the bank. I keep a healthy reserve in the bank because tomorrow I could, get in a car accident and not be able to work for a few weeks. But you know what? My staff will still get paid. My bills will get paid. Everything will stay in place for months and months and months. So be smart with your money. Don't leverage yourself too much. Don't overborrow. Don't create a lot of debt that you're going to be kind of a slave to. And just have a good plan and then do everything authentic, And I say that, but don't be afraid to borrow. You don't be afraid to borrow good ideas. Don't be afraid to ignore and disregard bad ideas, and be open about it. Like, hey, I don't know everything. So what did this person do? How were they successful? And just be authentic with it. Set up an LLC, set up a good bank account. From a liability perspective, this is my lawyer hat coming back on. Separate everything, keep it separate. Don't commingle your funds. Pay your taxes, pay your taxes, pay your taxes, pay your taxes, pay your taxes. Right? How many times did I say that? I get bills from the IRS sometimes, and I'm like, I pay my taxes. When I get a bill, I just pay it. And I send it to my accountant and say, hey, I paid this. Well, you shouldn't have. I said, well, try to get it back for me. I said, but it's the IRS. I'm paying my taxes. So keep those people at bay so you're not stressed out, and just go for it, man. Give it a shot. I wish I would have opened Bold Title 15 years ago. We're in our 6th year right now for this company, but I wish I would have opened it 15 years ago. And, I was scared. We all have fear. And, my wife, Sandy, she was the extra push, but just do it. Give it a shot. The worst thing you do is fail.
Yeah. I mean, it's a scary thing. People that have done it, that have stepped off that cliff, but man, it's an exciting ride. It's so worth it, man. So I know people are listening right now like, hey man, this dude's got a different approach to life and how he goes about these closings. How do I work with this guy? How can people reach out with you, and whether they want to work with you on the closings or maybe get punched in the face by you? What's the best way to reach out?
Well, I'd be happy to do either of them. Obviously, the closings is what pays my bills, feeds my kids, keeps my daughter in college, and I'll give her a plug. She goes to Ole Miss, so SEC school. But yeah, man, I'm simple to find, man. Bold Title LLC. Our website is boldclosings.com. Joel Jaquibino. Look, there's not many Jaquibinos. There's like 11 of us, maybe 10 of us left in the world, and we're all related for sure. Jaquibino. There's not many of us. I'm easy to find. I'm pretty out there in the community. Just look me up, find me. Shoot me an email, and hit me up on Facebook or any of these social media apps, and I'll get back to people. I love working with people. I love setting up new clients. I love working with banks. I have a lot of lenders, a lot of banks that I work with, and I love connecting people. If somebody's trying to start a business and they do need funding, or somebody's starting a business and they need to be set up, I can get them in touch with people. And that's making connections and putting people together when it works, it's great. It doesn't always work, right? But when you can kind of put folks together, it's wonderful. And, I diversify, man. I've got money invested here and there. I've got my title company, I actually own a real estate company that I just recently opened in the last few months, called Sage Realty Group, with a partner. And for me, that's a huge step because partners are scary, right? Anytime and it's a great relationship. It's somebody I worked with for a number of years, and I think it's going to be wildly successful. I think we kind of see things eye to eye, but it's a scary thing. But you know what? I did it. I said, you know what? I'm going to put trust in him, and he's going to put trust in me, and we're going to own this company together, and we're going to do real estate different. Like I do real estate closings different and title different. We're going to do real estate different from that side. And it's, in my industry, there's a lot of things that we call joint ventures, where you have realtors who own a bit of a title company and title company who owns a mortgage company and all that stuff. Look, man, Bold Title is 100% independent. I own it 100%. Nobody touches this company. My real estate agents that work for my real estate company, I don't care where they close, man. I don't. Go close somewhere else. If that's your relationship and that works for you, do it. It takes me out of the equation anyways, right? I don't like conflicts. I don't want to be conflicted out of anything. And I'm open and honest about it, where a lot of times people aren't. You're going to get the truth from me, whether you like it or not. And so you're going to get honesty from me, whether you like it or not. And so I carry that forward as much as I can, and have I made mistakes along the way? Have there been times when I've made decisions that have hurt people and stuff like that, or not been good for business and stuff like that? Absolutely. Absolutely. The ability to look at yourself and see how screwed up you can be helps you, and man, between faults and fallings and through the grace of God, we're able to, in my opinion, kind of, rise above things and having good people around you. And I carry that hopefully forth in every business that I do. With my fighting, I don't make any money doing it. With amateur fighters, you don't get paid. You're not allowed to get paid. I spend money on hotel rooms. I buy them meals. I make sure their licenses are up to date, but it's the mentoring and that aspect of it that, I think is helpful. And, I've got a few folks I work with now who are probably going to be really good fighters, but in the meantime, they need to find good jobs and good careers, because at any given moment, fighting might not be your answer. And so helping them to kind of set that stuff up is just, it's wonderful, man. And so, like I said, I know I kind of got off track, but I'm easy to get in touch with, man. I love going to lunch. I love coffee. I love having a conversation. If you want to come to the gym, you want me to punch you or kick you, Arsenal Combat Sports Club, we're on Jordan Lane. Come on by. If you want to learn about real estate, if you want to get into investing, you need help setting up a corporation or business or an LLC, I do all that stuff as well. I do estate work, very small scale, but I set up estates for my clients, wills, simple trust, powers of attorney, things like that. I am still an attorney as well. I can do all those things as well. And having a good relationship with somebody that you can bounce that stuff off of is so important. Don't use LegalZoom. People, stop using LegalZoom. Go meet with a lawyer. Like, I know it's expensive. I know it costs more, but what is it? You get what you pay for, right? It's just,
you get that peace of mind right there.
So true.
That's what you want. Well, Joel, this has been awesome, man. I appreciate you. I know if people are that, hey, if you're looking for someone honest and authentic, which you want with your closing, I promise you want that. That's the guy you want right there. Man, this has been awesome. I know you're a storyteller at heart. I can kind of tell that.
Well, I love here's the thing, man. So this bugs me. This bugs me, Joe. We have been bouncing around each other for years. Like, I have known who Joe Martin is for years. Like, I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Joe Martin. He's getting these people in shape, and he's getting these female empowerment, getting folks in shape. Man, you're doing a good job, Joe. Look, we're not like great friends. We're really on the start of our relationship here, but look, I know this is about other people for you, but I know you. When we finally met at the Black Business Expo, right? The Black Business Expo, it was like, how the hell have we not met? Like, how the heck have we not crossed paths? Like,
it's kind of crazy with Huntsville being so small.
You went to Grissom, right? Yeah, like, so we've been in around these circles. I've been here since I was 19. I'm probably older than you, but we know a lot of the same people, and we've been circling around each other, and we've probably been at the same events together, and but the fact that we haven't crossed paths, what does that tell you, right? It tells you that there's always like limitless possibilities, right? There's always connections you can make. And, so it's like, my wife knew who you were, like, and, but I was like, and I knew who you were, but she had, I think, met you in the past, but I was just like, how is it that like, we've not like had some sort of like crossing in the past? It's amazing to me, but you're doing cool things, man. I've kept up with what you've been doing as well. And I think, one of the things that resonates with me for you is when I said, like, I think I saw a post you did. I'm not even sure how old it was, but something about the fat kid is now teaching people how to get in shape. Yeah. Is that you? Dude, I'm the same way. Like, the bad kid is now a lawyer. Like, that's like, absolutely, right? Because we know the struggle. And
man, yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing, man. You're impacting lives too. And what I love about you too is you're authentic. You're the fact of where I met you, like, rings with me. It's like, not everybody's going to get up on a Saturday and go to an event with a demographic that other people ignore, right? And don't pay attention to. And it says a lot about you, man. So I'm glad I met you where I did. And then, of course, you asked me to come on here. And yeah, I'm going to write a book one day. And we should write a book together, right? I'll take the first half, you take the second half. And at the end, we'll combine our thoughts. I want to write a book one day. And I said, I'm going to write a memoir. I'm not famous. I'm not wealthy. I'm not extremely well known out of the area. Who's going to buy my book? I said, maybe nobody. I said, but I feel like at least if somebody gets it and learns a lesson from me and it impacts them, it's worth it, right?
That's it. So. That's it. That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Finally, we've crossed paths and made it happen. So I'm glad you came on here, man. It's been great. And yeah, man, it just, you're most qualified to help who you used to be. So, man, if you've walked in someone's shoes before, that's the people you can help. So being overweight, man, that was my story, and that's what I want to help people overcome. And you had some struggles growing up, and you can mentor these kids that went through what you went through. So we go through these for a reason, right? So
absolutely.
Thanks for coming on here, man. And what you're doing in the business community as well, you do so much for other people that it does not going to show up on your income at the end of the day, but it's going to be in that karma bucket you were talking about.
Yeah, no, I mean, it'll show up somewhere, right? At the pearly gates, hopefully. But I couldn't tell you, and I don't even care to try to tell you how much money I've spent doing things for other people that nobody will ever know about. And those are the things that make me happy. I don't need accolades, man. I really don't. My legacy for me will be my kids telling their kids that I was a cool dad, that I was a good dad. That's my legacy, man. I'm spending all my money. So Vincent,
Yeah.
Sophia, I'm spending all my money. So my legacy will be how awesome I was as a dad. So that's what I hope to leave behind.
Hey, soak them in while you can, kids. You ain't getting nothing else.
That's right, man. I'm spending it.
That's awesome. Joel, thanks for coming on, man. It's been great. Really enjoyed meeting you and learn more about your story. And I appreciate you guys listening, too. Can you please share Joel's story? Man, you could talk about a troubled kid, grew up with nothing, and look where he is now out there killing it in the world and helping other people. Appreciate y'all listening. We'll see you next week on the Huntsville Hustle podcast.
Thanks, y'all. Thanks, Joe.